A Wilmington, Delaware woman may depend on whether her son can get a stay of execution. Vesta Shelton needs a kidney transplant, and her son, who's on death row, is a compatible donor who has agreed to the operation. Here's Andrew Glassman.
My kidney, I need a new kidney.
Vesta Shelton's best chance for survival now is a kidney transplant from her son, Stephen. Stephen Shelton is sentenced to die by lethal injection in Delaware on April 5th. The doctors are telling Mrs. Shelton that she won't be ready for surgery until April 11th. She is hoping for a stay in Stephen's execution, not only to save his life, but her own.
We had to take tests in order to see if he was compatible, and he is compatible.
Stephen Shelton isn't Vesta's only son on death row. Her other son, Nelson, is also sentenced to die, and his execution date is coming up first on Friday, March 17th. The Shelton brothers were convicted, along with one other man, of murdering Wilson Mannon Jr. on this street in January 1992. They robbed him and beat him over the head. Imagine the stress on this 62-year-old woman who knows her kidney is failing and that her two sons are scheduled to die in the next few weeks.
You see a boy, it looks like your boy, and you watch him and you know it's not your son because you know where he's at.
27-year-old Nelson Shelton is not planning to appeal his death sentence and has said he's ready to die. But Stephen, 29, is planning to appeal. His mother says his gift of a kidney would be something she could carry with her if her son is put to death.
He's very lucky that he's able to give me this kidney. And I appreciate it very much, and I thank him very much because I know he loves me and he's doing it out of love.
Stephen Shelton's attorney says he is confident that he can have the execution delayed. But as it stands right now, Mrs. Shelton is scheduled for surgery. Her two sons are scheduled to die. Andrew Glassman for CBS News, Wilmington, Delaware.
Now you're about to see a side of this country no one likes to think about. Graphic evidence of a breakdown of values. It is ugly, it is incredible, it is real. CBS News correspondent Richard Threlkeld has the story and the pictures to match.
Get it, come on.
If you didn't see it on videotape, you wouldn't believe this happened.
Move, Mike.
In Jacksonville, Florida, it did. 5, 15, and 16-year-old boys burglarized and wrecked 8 new homes and a school and made a sort of ghastly video documentary of themselves doing it, complete with narration.
The house that we destroyed, a front view of it, it's right there.
There was no method to their madness, just mindless destruction and senseless cruelty. They threw a live sea trout in the microwave and turned it on. They took some of the marijuana they were smoking, put a bag over a puppy's head, and blew smoke into it.
We're going to get the stuff high.
Police cracked the case when they stopped one of these boys for questioning and found the videotape. Why tape all this? So they could see themselves on reruns.
It was something to have on video, I guess, just not for any purpose rather than just to watch it later or whatever.
Owners of the vandalized homes who've seen the video are outraged.
If this is what they can do for fun, what would they do if they're mad?
The boys, who are all from a middle-class neighborhood, have been charged with criminal mischief, vandalism, burglary, and cruelty to animals. But because they're juveniles, that might mean at most 9 months in a juvenile home, and maybe less than that.
This is something I can get through with probation or whatever.
It's bad enough to imagine that someday this could turn out to be your house. It's even worse to imagine that someday these could turn out to be your kids. Richard Threlkeld, CBS News, New York.
The shuttle Endeavour may have another week in space ahead, but its astronauts are coming down to Earth on board the Internet. NASA unveiled its homepage as Endeavour lifted off the launch pad. From this site, you can take a virtual tour of the shuttle or take a look at the celestial target the astronauts are studying. In the past week, the NASA homepage has logged some 600,000 visits by computers from 49 countries. If you've always dreamed of being an astronaut, you may want to check out a MUD, or multi-user domain. That's a site that allows a user to role play by adopting a different persona in virtual reality. We'll check out MUDs in this morning's Digital Drive. Our our question, are MUDs the ultimate place to hang out or just an escape from reality? With us this morning is Nancy Tomaszaitis. She is the author of NetSex from Ziff Davis Press. Nancy, why don't you describe for us what exactly a MUD is?
A MUD is a text-based virtual reality environment. You can lose yourself in a MUD. You can pretend to be an animal. You can pretend to be a chipmunk, for instance, on a MUD called Furry Muck. Lose yourself that way. It's a text-based virtual reality environment running on Unix, and it's very interesting kind of world to be in. It's actually kind of complicated until you really get into it. Every single MUD has its own particular language, and you have to get really immersed into that world to really understand how to maneuver around it.
Well, show us what it's all about.
Okay, terrific. The first MUD we go into is Star Trek. And here is basically where you can pretend to be a Ferengi or a Klingon or anything else related to the Star Trek empire and really lose yourself within that world. We're looking at here the World Wide Web site. We're not actually looking at the MUD. The MUD itself is not very graphically arresting to look at. It's a lot of text-based commands. So you'd just be looking at, enter name here, enter another command here. It's actually kind of boring to look at on the screen. So that's the World Wide Web site that just tells you about that particular site and how to find more about it. Next we go on to Toomush.
Toomush.
Yes.
Okay. A place called Toomush.
Mush is multi-user shared hallucination.
Okay, now we're getting into some gray area, which sounds kind of interesting. Let's go.
It's still another form of a MUD, which is a MUD is also short for multi-user dialogue, multi-user dimension, or maybe multi-user dementia, for all I know. No one's coined it that yet, but people really get immersed into this world and really get so into it that they spend oftentimes 10 hours a day on it. But that is not everyone.
Wow, 10 hours a day.
Some people do, but that isn't everyone. There are people that actually have it down and are controlled about their lifestyle. I'm not one to judge. I'm sort of an online junkie. Next we go on to Lydia Leung's site. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. She has developed absolutely the best site on the World Wide Web for information on mudding. Everything you can imagine on mudding. It was a tremendous resource while I was doing my book. I basically tapped into Lydia's brain and asked her 5 million questions, and she was very receptive and helpful and pointed me to the right places to go. Brilliant site.
And the beauty of this, too, is that you don't need to know how to pronounce somebody's name. Because
you don't have to. And that was the first time I'd ever seen Lydia. I'd been going through a shell account, so I'd never actually looked at her World Wide website while I was doing a lot of that book. I was going through other formats on the internet.
Okay, joining our conversation now is Toomush creator Edmund Mindfetter. He's in the CBS News Bureau in Washington. Now, I understand that you are one of those people who spends hours and hours in front of the computer screen. Tell us why. I mean, what makes you tick?
Well, MUDs are very interesting, as Nancy said. You can lose yourself in them, but there is the ability to become more than you are. Real life, we're all just students, programmers, electricians, whatnot. But on a MUD, you can actually be more. You can be a leader. You can be a programmer. Anything you can imagine.
Yeah, I understand you can also be a lover. I've been told.
That is a part of it too. It's a simulacrum of life. It's just a world in miniature.
Do you have an experience with gender benders online? Are there any people going on to Toomush who are pretending to be the opposite sex?
Yes, there are. There are a few regulars that do that. One related to me that it's a form of self-expression, something that they needed to do. A lot of people say it frees them from their expectations of society.
What was the catalyst for you getting into mudding?
I had too much free time on my hands.
Yeah, and I assume it's been a worthwhile experience for you.
It has been. I learned a lot about TCP, a programming protocol that's the basis of the internet. That helped me get a lot of good jobs afterwards. But what really got me into it was that I was amazed by this program. A MUD is typically a database that can hold over hundreds of thousands of objects. and serve these objects or allow people to manipulate them in real time while communicating with other peoples.
Can you tell us the difference between adventure and social MUDs?
Yes, I can. Adventure MUDs typically have quests, often combats involved. Social MUDs like Too Mush, people just go to chat like at a bar.
Which do you prefer?
I prefer the social MUD.
Which is why Too Much is a very, very social place?
It is, yes.
All right, well, we thank you for joining us this morning, Edmund. Sounds like you're having some fun in front of the computer screen these days. Nancy, thank you as well.
Thank you very
much. As always, a lot of fun. It's getting racier and racier, it seems, on the internet.
Sure is.
For more information about this morning's broadcast, you can visit the Up to the Minute homepage. There it is. From here, you can hot link to the sites mentioned or visit the CBS homepage, where you'll find The Late Show with David Letterman. Or you can send us an email at mail@uttm.com. It's been a lot of fun this morning. We'll be back after a short break. You're watching CBS News Up to the Minute.
Everyone's talking about low fat, but not everyone's losing weight. My doctor told me that to lose weight, you have to cut both fat and calories. That's why I chose the Ultra Slim Fast plan, and I lost 50 pounds in 6 months. For me, it's the ultimate way to lose weight. Each shake is low in fat, the calories are counted, and nutrition, it's all in there. The plan is easy. A shake for breakfast and lunch, delicious candy bars as snacks, and a sensible dinner. So come on, start Ultra Slim Fast today. It's America's healthy way to lose weight.
Now there's a new hearing aid for Miracle Ear. So advanced, it's virtually invisible. Now you see it. Now you don't. It's the new Mirage hearing aid for Miracle Ear. Call now. We'll send you these free booklets that tell you how the virtually invisible Mirage may help you hear better. If you call 1-800-203-2500 right now, we'll also send you this free videotape, Hearing Loss and You. It'll show you the most common causes and solutions for hearing loss. And we'll include the free booklets about the new Mirage hearing aid from Miracle Ear. You see, Mirage is our most advanced hearing aid that fits completely into the ear canal. It's not only small, it's virtually invisible. Call Miracle Ear at 1-800-203-2500. We'll send you important new information about hearing loss and the virtually invisible Mirage.
It's amazing. I know he's wearing it, but I can't see it.
So call Miracle Ear at 1-800-203-2500. Call now.
Even as things change, one thing remains the same. Over the long term, nothing, not bonds, not cash, not gold, nothing has outperformed the stock market.
Kids today, dressed for success? Forget it.
Would you wear all this for a job interview? I wouldn't go.
And employers say it's not just how they look.
Young people are not work ready.
Would you hire an American teenager? Eye on America tonight on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.
Were American soldiers poisoned by chemical weapons in the Gulf War? The Pentagon says no, but a lot of the veterans who fought there say yes. 60 Minutes, Sunday.
Watch CBS this morning. Eat breakfast for your head.
Let's take a quick look at your weather, shall we? Another unsettled day for the West Coast. Showers will continue there. Much of the rest of the nation will be dry. New England stays in the deep freeze.
And that's the news for this half hour.
You're watching CBS News Up to the Minute.
My father used to say that he started Gramercy Press so that the written word would always have a home. And that mission hasn't changed. But it's 1994, and the era of Charles Dickens is over. We use computers, and we still mail manuscripts around the world. Curtis still prints a catalog every quarter and drops them in the mailbox. And our most advanced form of communication is Darlene's lovely little message slips. We've been talking to MCI, and this is not about the phone bill. But we're going to make some changes. Not in our ideals, but in the tools that we use.
Everybody had an opinion.
I think it's a great idea. We are finally waking up.
What's wrong with Charles Dickens?
It's appropriate. Art is constant. Tools change.
Digital technology is the future, whether you're selling books or bagels.
The fact was, Peter had big plans that would change the way everybody did everything around here.
Come in.
Hi. You wanted to see me about something?
Darlene, where are my messages? Did I get any messages?
Oh, sure. They're on your email.
Email? Oh, I want paper.
Well, just print them out. They're right there on your email.
Would Dickens use email? Would Fitzgerald? Would Shakespeare use email?
Well, they would now.
Look, I started door-to-door sales. You know, that's about as hard as you can get, right?
Curtis is going to be happier than anybody in the whole world.
Curtis.
But being very popular sort of a guy around the office.
Well, I haven't seen a lot of him lately, which is kind of a good thing.
What's the latest with Darlene?
Oh, forget that. Check this out. I can get our entire winter catalog out to 2,000 bookstores just like that. And press this button, you get an entire summary of the book.
Just like that?
Interactive.
Cool.
Uh-huh.
I love technology.
Oh, Reggie already knows this stuff. He's been waiting for this to get here.
Yesterday, Reginald was in an unusual hurry.
Martin here.
West Indies just won.
How on earth do you know?
It's on my computer. You owe me $5. Old sport.
Cricket? How can you have a sport named after a bug?
You know, I'm finding there's some Fridays I'm getting more done in 4 or 5 hours at home.
He can be at his place in the country. I can be here at my office in Manhattan. She can be down in La Jolla.
I don't have to get on a plane and leave the beach. And that's the greatest gift of all.
Okay, here's the latest scenario. Peter's in heaven. He can sit at home looking at the contracts to death on the 18th hole.
Nicole, you really don't have to worry about it.
While simultaneously, the author has it on her screen.
Do you think we could talk about this promotional tour for a few minutes?
While simultaneously, the company's attorney in Manhattan has it on his screen.
Outline paragraphs 1 and 4.
All right. And they can all work together on it. Very intimate. But if you ask me, there's one thing they're not seeing. She has the victim die 100 feet from the green with an exploding driver. When everybody knows he'd be using a wedge, not a driver at that point. What she should have done is install a liquid explosive in the ball washing machine, so when he goes to wash him, boom. But what do I know? It's a bestseller.
You know, at first I thought she was going to resist it.
But I mean, I was in on it. I mean, I knew we were approaching this. Yeah.
But then there was some stuff I saw, and I thought, this is for her.
So, Mr. Rosette, what you doing?
Surfing the internet.
Don't look like a beach boy.
I'm editing Blood of the Pharaohs. This is from the University of Cairo. That's Queen Nefertiti.
Cool. Yeah, you guys kind of look alike.
Well, Martin?
Martin is a wonderful man.
I mean, he comes from the typewriter set, you know?
I can get our entire winter catalog out to 2,000 bookstores just like that.
This is going to give me all the news on sports books and women's books from anywhere in the world.
We're going to make some changes. Not in our ideals, but in the tools that we use.
The first total package of online video conferencing and messaging services for American business is now available for your business. Call now and experience the 21st century at a special introductory rate.
Good morning. morning from CBS News. This is Up to the Minute. I'm Brad Holbrook.
And I'm Nanette Hansen. Thanks for joining us. He hung up his Air Jordans in 1993 for baseball cleats. Now it appears Michael Jordan is about to shoot hoops once again. The Associated Press quotes an unnamed source as saying Jordan has already decided to quit baseball and return to the Chicago Bulls. The report also says he won't be in shape to play for at least several weeks. Jordan has played minor league baseball since his retirement, but was seen practicing with the Bulls over the past 2 days.
Wet, wet, wet. The forecast for California is more of the same. A fierce storm is dumping rain and whipping high winds from north to south. Flood warnings are in effect for the Napa and Russian rivers, forcing the evacuation of thousands. Here's Jody Hernandez of KOVR TV.
It's just lightly misting out here right now, but even though it's not raining hard, that's not stopping the waters from rising pretty rapidly. You can see behind me the water's really creeping up on this restaurant here. Now, the folks that live above the restaurant are sticking it out tonight, but most folks aren't taking any chances. As the water rises, people are packing up and heading out.
Since the tide has come in, it came up to the trailer, and we're just now getting the last bit of the stuff out, you know, what we can, and what we can't, we'll just have to leave here and hope that it doesn't get damaged too bad.
This campground has been closed for repairs since the January floods. Gerald Maxwell says it's a dose of deja vu.
Our goal was to open April 1st. I almost made it. Depends how much debris and damage this flood does, if we make it or not.
But the flooding isn't all folks are dealing with. Mudslides are making a mess of an already soggy street.
So I decided to go to the Forest Hills Mall.
Despite the danger, some folks are sticking it out. The Russian River Pub is open for business tonight.
We have some small water supply up on the hill, gravity feed, and basically the small generator provides a little bit of life. And we get by.
Customers are dining by candlelight, making the most of a scary situation.
Our house isn't even dried out from the last flood, and here we're doing it again.
How does that make you feel?
Terrible. Terrible. I wished it was over with.
Earlier today, Arlene Morales watched her house slowly go under. The water swallowed up surrounding cars. At 4:50, Morales' mailboxes began to disappear. At 5:20, the boxes are almost gone. Then just after 6, they've disappeared for good.
So we were here in '86, too. And they told us it wasn't going to happen then, but it has. I don't know. We're just in a bad spot.
And we are in a pretty bad spot where we are right now. Just in the last couple of hours, the water has really moved up and covered up the roadway here. Now, to the right of me, past these trees, is the Russian River, and that is expected to crest sometime tonight. And if it's anything like the January storm, this entire area should be completely flooded by tomorrow morning. Reporting live for CBS News, I'm Jody Hernandez. Now back to you.
Just say no again. Former First Lady Nancy Reagan, who launched the successful anti-drug campaign while in the White House, was back in Washington yesterday. She went to Capitol Hill to criticize the country's apparent retreat in the war on drugs. CBS News correspondent Linda Douglas has the story.
Hailed by Republicans as the unsung heroine of America's war on drugs. Mrs. Reagan charged these days Washington doesn't seem to care about America's drug crisis.
How could we have forgotten so quickly? Why is it we no longer hear the drumbeat of condemnation against drugs coming from our leaders and our culture? Just say no.
More than a decade ago, Mrs. Reagan began urging children to just say no to drugs. At the time, critics ridiculed her message as naive and simplistic. But the message has evolved into more sophisticated prevention programs that today teach children how to say no.
Want to get high? No way, man. That stuff's for losers.
These days, drug use among adolescents is on the rise again. Republicans blame President Clinton for failing to speak out on the issue.
This president, right now, is virtually invisible on this issue. The most famous statement made by this president on this issue is, "I didn't inhale."
The Clinton administration charges Republicans are hypocrites. While honoring Nancy Reagan on the one hand, they are pushing to eliminate funding for her favorite drug abuse prevention programs. Linda Douglas, CBS News, Washington.
An Irish Republican leader will be visiting the White House on this St. Patrick's Day. President Bill Clinton has personally invited Gerry Adams, head of the political party allied with the IRA. And in Northern Ireland yesterday, cheering crowds greeted Queen Elizabeth on her first visit since the IRA ceasefire took effect 6 months ago. Gary Hunniford of British Sky News was there.
If this was a day of largely symbolic significance, then nowhere was that symbolism more pronounced than in Armagh. The head of state of the United Kingdom, conferring city status on the ecclesiastical capital of Ireland.
For many difficult years, the people of Northern Ireland have shown courage and compassion of an extraordinary kind. Today, as they begin to look towards a more peaceful future, Armagh, with its two great cathedrals standing so close together, presents a powerful symbol of the strength, spirit and hopes of people across Northern Ireland.
She met the leaders of both the Anglican and Catholic churches in Ireland. They spoke of their hopes for a peaceful new era.
I think the peace process is like a child's jigsaw. Every little piece adds to another piece. And I think this is as important as any piece today, and I hope it's interpreted in that way.
That's the Ireland we want to create. An Ireland open to and inclusive of both traditions. And that's the only Ireland that really is possible, and is the Ireland that we want, and the Ireland we want to hand on to our children.
This type of walkabout-style visit was made possible by current ceasefires. For some, it had a particular meaning.
I think it's important that the Queen sees that the Queen has support from the Unionists, that she should see how important she is to us.
The visit will have little effect on Unionists' attitude to the British government's policy for Northern Ireland, but their loyalty to the British Crown remains undiminished. Gary Hunniford, Sky News, Armagh City.
More news after a break.
This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
Sleep deprivation. 70 million Americans have experienced it, but you don't have to. Try maximum strength Sleep & All soft gels with the sleep aid preferred by 7 out of 10 doctors. Sleep & All soft gels help you fall asleep fast.
I want to know about meeting that special someone.
Sorry, can't help you there.
I want to know more about a diet I can live with.
No way, not in this commercial.
I want to know more about Rogaine.
Rogaine with minoxidil?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Okay, just call this number now for a free information kit on Rogaine topical solution. It could help answer your questions because it's filled with all kinds of facts about Rogaine. And because you need a prescription to get Rogaine, we'll send you a list of local doctors and special money-saving offers to help you decide if Rogaine is right for you.
But I want to know right now.
We'll mail it to you today. So what are you waiting for? Call now for your free information kit. Call 1-800-443-7555.
Everyone's talking about low fat, but not everyone's losing weight. My doctor told me that to lose weight, you have to cut both fat and calories. That's why I chose the Ultra Slim Fast plan, and I lost 50 pounds in 6 months. For me, it's the ultimate way to lose weight. Each shake is low in fat, the calories are counted, and nutrition, it's all in there. The plan is easy. A shake for breakfast and lunch, delicious candy bars as snacks, and a sensible dinner. So come on, start Ultra Slim Fast today. It's America's healthy way to lose weight.
Sleep deprivation. 70 million Americans have experienced it, but you don't have to. Try maximum strength Sleep & All soft gels with the sleep aid preferred by 7 out of 10 doctors. Sleep & All soft gels help you fall asleep fast.
The most talked about witness in the O.J. Simpson case will be back on the stand later this morning. Los Angeles Police Detective Mark Furman was finally called to testify yesterday. Here's a look at the trial coverage from our CBS station in Los Angeles, KCBS TV.
Finally, the witness we've all been waiting to see takes the stand.
Can you tell us how you feel about testifying today?
Nervous? Reluctant? Detective Mark Furman is ready to tell all.
We could see a female victim in a black dress, lying as it's depicted in the photo, somewhat face down in a pool of blood. It appeared that that blood was flowing down the walkway.
You're watching an Action News special. Here now is Michael Tuck with the latest on the People versus O.J. Simpson.
We've been hearing about him for months and how he found that notorious bloody glove, about all the racial allegations made by the defense. Finally, today, we heard Detective Mark Furman's testimony. Harvey Levitt is live at the Criminal Courts Building downtown with highlights from this day in court. Harvey, he commanded an awful lot of attention, didn't he?
It was amazing, Mike. It was high drama in Judge Lance Ito's courtroom. For 7 months, the defense has vowed to villainize Detective Mark Furman. Today, the beginning of the showdown. O.J. Simpson was the biggest celebrity in Department 103 until Mark Furman entered, or so it seemed. Even Simpson sat up and took notice as Furman chatted with prosecutors before taking the stand. Marcia Clark began by eliciting a very human response.
Can you tell us how you feel about testifying today?
Nervous? Reluctant?
Can you tell us why?
Throughout, since June 13th, it seems that I've seen a lot of the evidence ignored and a lot of personal issues come to the forefront. I think that's too bad.
O.J. Simpson seemed uncomfortable at times as Furman testified. Simpson wouldn't look at Furman as the detective described Nicole Brown Simpson's lifeless body.
Somewhat face down in a pool of blood. It appeared that that blood was flowing down the walkway, predominantly in the cracks of the tiled walkway.
Much of today's testimony was defensive. Furman categorically denied allegations in this letter written by Kathleen Bell. Bell says in the mid-'80s, Furman expressed hatred for African Americans and interracial marriages.
Can you tell us whether you knew someone or met someone by the name of Kathleen Bell?
Yes, I can tell you. I did not.
But F. Lee Bailey says the defense has a secret witness who will make Mark Furman out to be a liar.
Unfortunately, there was someone else present he doesn't know about.
Wait. In addition to the Marines at the recruiting center?
On another occasion.
Clark noted when Furman responded to a 1985 call at the Rockingham estate after O.J. Simpson had allegedly smashed Nicole Brown Simpson's car windshield, Furman acted with restraint.
Now, you saw that the woman involved with Mr. Simpson was a white woman, didn't you?
Yes.
Did you make any effort to encourage that the defendant be prosecuted for it?
No.
Did you attempt to persuade her to seek prosecution for the incident?
No.
Could you have done so?
Yes.
But outside court, F. Lee Bailey countered Furman was legally handcuffed.
Mark Furman had no options. He had no complainant. He had no complaint. He had no evidence that the breaking of the windshield in question wasn't an accident.
Marcia Clark then set out to prove in the early hours of June 13th, Detective Furman was in no position to pilfer evidence.
So what is the closest that you got to the bodies of Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown at that time, 2 a.m. in the morning?
Standing above them on the top of the landing.
On another occasion.
F. Lee Bailey sarcastically suggested it's easy to be a good witness during direct examination.
He's articulate, presents himself well, and would appear at first blush to be a credible witness.
But
that's what cross-examination is all about.
Well, cross-examination may not happen for several days. Tomorrow, court adjourns at noon, and Marcia Clark has hours of testimony to elicit from Detective Mark Furman before F. Lee Bailey gets his shot. My guess is we won't hear F. Lee Bailey attacking Mark Furman until Monday, possibly Tuesday.
Harvey Lee Bailey almost seems like a racehorse waiting in the gate, waiting for that flag to go up, doesn't he?
It really seemed that way to me. You watched him in court at times. He was scowling. He couldn't wait to get to the first floor microphone. Really, this was one of his rare appearances there. He really wanted to talk and tell reporters he can't wait.
It really will be an interesting confrontation. Harvey, thank you. Meantime, our legal expert, Erwin Chemerinsky, joins us now for a closer look at Furman's first day on the stand. Erwin, how did these first few hours go?
They went well for the prosecution. Furman presented himself as competent and very professional. The surprise for me is that Marcia Clark began with the Kathleen Bell letter accusing Furman of being a racist. I'm not surprised that she wanted to present that letter to the jury. rather than have it come from the defense's impeachment. What surprised me is that she led with that. It seemed a bit defensive, and also I would think she wanted to build Furman's credibility with his record, with his testimony, before beginning with that impeaching statement.
Erwin, the defense has made so much about the credibility of Mark Furman. If they can't cast doubt on it now in court, is this a big blow to their case?
Well, they want to put the police on trial. That's the centerpiece of their case. And the core of that is putting Mark Furman on trial. The defense hopes that if they can successfully impeach Furman as a racist, that might cause the jury to doubt the credibility of all the police officer witnesses.
But if they can't, does that really hurt the defense?
It does hurt the defense, but it's not fatal to the defense. I think what will hurt the defense most if they can't impeach Furman is they then won't have an alternative explanation for the glove that was found behind Simpson's home. The fact that that glove was behind Simpson's home is a key piece of evidence for the prosecution. If the defense can't persuade the jury that there's a possibility that the glove was planted, then the only likely interpretation is that Simpson left it there.
Erwin, thank you very much for that. Erwin Chemerinsky, professor of law at USC. On the inside now, O.J. Simpson, his defense team, and others finally saw the controversial witness face to face. Our Pat Lalama is live at the Criminal Courts building downtown with more on reaction inside the courtroom. It was pretty dramatic, wasn't it, Pat?
Oh, so dramatic, Michael. I have to tell you, the jury sat at attention. The courtroom held a collective gaze. The defendant stared at the witness, all eyes on Mark Furman.
How controversial is Mark Furman? When flowers were delivered to him today, sheriff's deputies checked the vase for anything suspicious.
The people called Detective Mark Furman.
If anyone anticipated a testimonial time bomb, it wasn't dropped today. It was Furman himself who rocked the room.
When he was called, it was like electricity went through the courtroom and everyone stirred and, the proverbial hushed courtroom.
It was like a great star turn, a star entrance. The whole courtroom was prime, waiting for him.
The prosecution first scraped the paint off a media portrait to try and show a human face.
Since June 13th, it seems that I've seen a lot of the evidence ignored and a lot of personal issues come to the forefront. I think that's too bad.
Okay. Heard a lot about yourself in the press, have you?
Daily.
There was levity when the detective couldn't operate the electronic blackboard.
Now how do I erase the errors?
F. Lee Bailey never seemed so transfixed. Understandable, he'll soon be in the ring with Furman. But it was the eyes of O.J. Simpson, locked on the witness, that gripped the courtroom.
O.J. turned around in his seat and looked at him that way and followed him in.
They never met eyes.
Furman never looked at him.
No. One time he nodded in his direction, but he didn't look at him.
Did the jury study him?
Oh, yes. They were very attentive. They were taking copious notes. When he came in, when he took the stand, they were looking at him. I saw a few jurors look like they were really studying him.
Mark Furman, day one, a moment indelibly inked.
Today I was thinking, this is why I'm covering this case. This is why it's so great.
And I think we all feel somewhat of that sentiment. And truly, for even veterans in the business, a memorable day, Michael, I have to tell you.
It certainly was, Pat. Thank you very much for that. Well, joining us live now is former L.A. Police Chief Daryl Gates. Chief, we have heard a lot about this 1985 incident in which O.J. Simpson allegedly bashed out the windshield of Nicole's car. Mark Furman answered that call. F. Lee Bailey said categorically there was nothing more he could have done. He couldn't have followed up. He couldn't have hassled O.J. Simpson at all. Is that true? Could he have done something?
Well, I think he could have, no question about it. I think he handled it very nicely, very carefully, but I think he could have done a lot more. Certainly he could have asked Nicole to bring her hands down so he could look at her face to see whether she was bruised in any way, harmed in any way. He could have gone over and picked up the baseball bat. He certainly, if he hadn't recognized O.J., he could have asked O.J. who he was. F. Lee Bailey has appalling pomposity.
Quite a phrase you turned there.
Yeah, that really is. What does that mean?
Recently, Kathleen Bell wrote that letter detailing an alleged racist comment she says she heard Mark Furman make in the mid-'80s. Did she write any such letter complaining to the police department back in the 80s?
Not that I know of at all, and you would think that a good citizen would do that.
Well, let me ask you, if she had, what would your procedures have been?
Oh, we would have investigated immediately. I mean, that is something you could not allow to not be investigated for several reasons, Mike. This would impeach him forevermore if it were true. We would want to know whether we have a racist on the department. We would want to find out what's wrong with him if he was a racist. So this was something she had a duty to report to the police department. She didn't, apparently, and now it's suddenly come forward. I just kind of wonder why.
On a personal note, recently I walked into a bank. Right after that, Mark Furman walked in. Everybody in that room knew who he was before he stood up to testify even. Got to be a lot of pressure on him. You've talked to it.
I have. I talked to him this morning. You know, this is a tough guy, but he's also a very sensitive young man, and he also he's a fine detective. He works hard. He's a professional. He did nothing but go out and investigate a murder and do what you want a detective to do.
Former LA Police Chief Daryl Gates, we thank you very much, sir. Well, here's what's next in the case of the People versus O.J. Simpson. Detective Mark Furman will be right back on the stand tomorrow morning testifying for the prosecution. Could take several days. When Marcia Clark is finished, F. Lee Bailey will be the one who cross-examines Mark Furman. Have a nice night, everybody. We'll see you back here at 11 o'clock.
More news after a break.
This is CBS News Up to the Minute.
Eye drops. They're all pretty much alike, but one stands apart. It's Visine, the only one recommended by pharmacists 4-to-1 over any other brand. Visine's formula is so effective, it used to be available only by prescription. So effective, it gives you 100% of the relief you need. Your pharmacist knows, and now you do too. Visine, it gets the red out.
Arthritis. Imagine if you could relieve your minor arthritis pain so effectively. It almost feels like you've gone back in time to the days before you had arthritis. Try Capsaicin P, a remarkable cream with the topical analgesic ingredient doctors recommend most for arthritis pain. Capsaicin P builds effectiveness until it reaches peak pain relief power. And when the pain is gone, it's almost like you've gone back in time. Get odor-free Capsaicin P with the ingredient doctors recommend most.
If you need extra strength medication to treat itchy skin, you're not alone.
I shave my legs frequently, and it can be kind of painful and itchy.
Now you can solve your itchy skin problems with extra strength Gold Bond medicated powder.
I can relieve the burning and itching almost immediately.
Extra strength Gold Bond has an extra strength triple action formula. We take our proven absorbing action, then add more pain reliever for medicating action, and extra zinc oxide for drying action.
It's very cooling and soothing.
Extra strength Gold Bond medicated powder.
Alka-Seltzer or Bromo-Seltzer. They sound the same, but there are two differences. Bromo-Seltzer has 29% more acid neutralizing capacity than Alka-Seltzer. That's 29% more power to neutralize stomach acid. And Bromo-Seltzer contains the non-aspirin pain reliever used most by hospitals, while Alka-Seltzer contains aspirin. So if you want 29% more acid neutralizing capacity and the pain reliever used most by hospitals, there's only one choice: Bromo-Seltzer.
Kids today, dressed for success? Forget it.
Would you wear all this for a job interview? I wouldn't go.
And employers say it's not just how they look.
Young people are not work ready.
Would you hire an American teenager? Eye on America tonight on the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather and Connie Chung.
The diet pill that promises to take off the weight without exercise.
Thousands of Americans bought it. Should you?
Coming up on CBS This Morning.
Watch CBS This Morning. Eat breakfast for your head.
Well, you know what they say, what a difference a day makes.
I know that they say that. Do we say that as well?
24 little hours.
Just a couple of days ago, Pittsburghers were enjoying spring-like weather in the 70s.
But those temps seemed like a distant memory as winter weather put in an encore performance yesterday. Look at that. Icy sidewalks and roads made the morning commute, well, a challenge for folks behind the wheel and on foot. But remember, everybody, spring is less than 2 weeks away.
And marking the days off my calendar. Time now for a look at today's forecast. Is calling for more wet in the west, and it could continue to cause problems in already flooded, muddy areas. The eastern two-thirds of the nation remain dry, with the northeast still in the big chill. Warm air will flow from the Rockies across the plains. The northeast will be cold with temperatures below freezing.
she's a cheat, she's a sneak, and she's a manipulator.
She's never liked me.
Do your in-laws treat you like dirt?
Get out of that marriage.
I won't give her the
You cannot win.
Next, Sally Jesse Raphael.
Sally, weekdays at 4. Weather is as easy as 1, 2, 3 on 25 WEHT. First warning displays a county-by-county map with severe weather information. 2 dedicated NEXRAD Doppler radar sites give you the most powerful Doppler available. Only News 25 has 3 weather anchors that include 2-degree meteorologists with over 30 years combined experience. 25 WEHT makes weather easy as 1, 2, 3.
Does Clint Eastwood have a new love? A television anchor is making news with Dirty Harry. Plus, a former all-star pitcher was found homeless under a bridge. Watch the next American Journal.
American Journal, weeknights on 25 WEHT.
Sometimes our community needs a hand. That's when Youth Resources can help. And now, Youth Resources could use a helping hand, too. Yours. To find out how you can give us and your community a hand, call 421-0030.
The good news is the new smash musical comedy The Goodbye Girl is here at Civic Theater weekends through March 11th. Neil Simon's The Goodbye Girl is a winner, an Academy Award-winning film and now a Broadway musical with music and lyrics by Marvin Hamlish and David Zippel. The Goodbye Girl leaves you happier to be alive. Call 425-2800 with credit card and say hello to The Goodbye Girl at Civic Theater, sponsored by DSM and NBD.
It is Friday and time for this week's Odd File and something new for you, Brad.
I can't wait.
Do you want to know what the Odd File is?
Go ahead.
Okay, well, let's just call it the unusual side of the news. We begin this week with a story for baseball fans searching for a real sport to follow. You could try rattlesnake sacking. The object, to see how many of the poisonous reptiles you can cram into a sack before the buzzer. There's no hits here, but the strikes could be deadly.
If you were in New Mexico over the weekend, you could have taken in the hottest show around there, the 7th Annual National Fiery Foods Show. The main attraction, sauces, salsas, sausages, chips, and peppers. How hot is it?
Is that really hot?
It's nuclear.
Hot.
I could feel it from here.
Not much sport in that one, but in Seattle this week, a whole bunch of athletes took racing to new levels. 69 flights to be exact. Another annual event, the Big Climb, up the 76-story Columbia Tower, the tallest building west of the Mississippi. There they go, runners catching their breath at the top. Have a spectacular view. There they are at the top. Must be an observation deck. Ah, spectacular.
They didn't seem they were in that much of a
panoramic
hurry.
Even.
And oh, this is one that I have here. Here's one I bet you never heard of before. It comes from Cincinnati, where a man is suing the state lottery for more than $4 million. Yes, he is. Donald Bamberger says he can prove the place, day, and time that he bought the ticket that should have won him $4.3 million. The only trouble is he doesn't have the ticket. He says it flew out of his car window.
Likely story.
And he didn't stop to pick it up because he thought it was garbage. Well, too late now. The deadline for claiming the jackpot passed this week. That happened to me once, too, you know.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if you know this. Maybe you do. Maybe you've heard.
Try me.
I'm a dog lover.
Okay.
Have you heard that around here?
I have, yes.
So we always try to get a dog story in the Odd File. And here's this week's. It's about a woman in Minnesota who's found the perfect use for all that dog hair that her dog shed around the house. She wears it. Netta DeSalis has been spinning dog hair into yarn for more than 10 years. She mixes it with lamb's wool because dog hair doesn't have any spring. She says she'll keep on spinning dog hair until dogs stop shedding.
That may never happen. I wonder what happens when it gets wet. Does it smell like...
I bet it's nasty. It's time to have a bath. That's this week's Odd File.
And for this half hour as well, you're watching CBS News Up to the Minute.
This is CBS.
Next, Sally, when your in-laws want you out.
Ahead on CBS News Up to the Minute, life on the edge in California. Hanging in there is taking on too real a meaning.
And Mark Furman takes the stand in the O.J. Simpson trial. He may be there for a while.
From CBS News in New York, this is Up to the Minute. I'm Brad Holbrook.
And I'm Nanette Hansen. Thanks for being with us. In our news this morning, threatened with a landslide, one California community has become a ghost town. In La Conchita, 100 homes are now said to be on the brink of tumbling into the sea. Some say the only noises are the surf and the sound of houses creaking against the shifting earth. Carla Wohl is in La Conchita.
There is an eerie quiet in La Conchita. Most homes are dark, the residents gone. Occasionally, you'll see a light and a ribbon. Find one of the few residents who've decided to stay.
I don't think there's anybody north of us, so towards the hill, we're the last ones on the street.
At the top of the street, under the spotlight, is the mountain, and a powerful reminder of what it can do.
Saying goodbye to all our neighbors and stuff. It's just... This place used to be paradise.
At a meeting, residents were told that the storm is now expected to dump up to 5 inches of rain on their piece of paradise. Not as much as initially predicted, but enough to cause a major mudslide, a slide that puts 138 homes, 75% of this town, in jeopardy.
If anything develops tonight, we're going to start hitting the horns with the 3 blasts like we've been telling you.
The stress of waiting for that alarm, waiting to see just how bad this mudslide could be, is taking its toll. Many just want to get it over with so they can clean up and go on.
Talk about stress. You're like, come on, rain, let's get it over with, and so we can get on with our lives.
Well, the rain is coming. Residents are sleeping with one ear open, listening for 3 blasts from the air horn, indicating that the mountain is coming down. In La Conchita, California, I'm Carla Wohl for CBS News.
Meantime, Mexicans are bracing for life under a tough new austerity program. Leaders unveiled the harsh plan of spending cuts, tax hikes, and belt tightening last night with hopes of putting the brakes on Mexico's financial tailspin. The plan will cut the purchasing power of millions of Mexicans by at least a third. Financial analysts polled after the announcement largely welcomed the measures, but said labor and businesses could still undo the plan.
On Capitol Hill, part of the Republican contract with America is in jeopardy. The GOP promised term limits for politicians back during the campaign. Now, even with a majority, they're coming up short on the number of votes they need to pass term limits. Yesterday, the focus turned to the more favorable ground of tax cuts. CBS News Washington correspondent Bob Schieffer reports from Capitol Hill.
Taxes will be cut. Relief is on the way.
With that, the top Republican tax writer unveiled the long-awaited tax cut package. The heart of it, a $500 per child tax credit for every family earning $200,000 or less, coupled with a 50% cut in the capital gains tax paid on the sale of property and real estate. The White House attacked instantly, claiming Republicans wanted to pay for the cuts by reducing social programs.
The president rejects the idea of targeting the most vulnerable in our society, our children, needy families, the homeless.
That criticism aside, and there was plenty of it, Republican leaders were anxious to get on the record with tax cut plans since they've had to postpone a vote on another major plank in the contract with America, term limits. Why?
To maximize public debate and to give our constituents the opportunity to express their views on this historic legislation.
In other words, they don't have the votes. And angry term limit supporters are already ginning up commercials.
But now the Republican leadership is actually planning to strike down term limits laws passed in 22 states and double their own limits and stay in Washington.
Which is why Speaker Gingrich spent the day saying we're not giving up, just delaying it.
I strongly favor a 12-year term limit, and we're going to work very hard to try to pass it.
But the fact is, tax cuts and term limits are in trouble. With the deficit going up, Senate Republicans seem increasingly wary about cutting taxes now.
As for term limits, office holders often lose interest in that concept once they take office. Bob Sheeper, CBS News at the Capitol.
Los Angeles Police Detective Mark Furman goes back to the witness stand today. The prosecution took the risky path yesterday of confronting allegations that Furman is a racist. It may have been the opening the defense was waiting for. CBS News correspondent Manuel Gallegos is covering the trial in Los Angeles.
Can you tell us how you feel about testifying today?
Nervous? Reluctant?
Can you tell us why?
Throughout, since June 13th, it seems that I've seen a lot of the evidence ignored and a lot of personal issues come to the forefront. I think that's too bad.
Detective Mark Furman finally took the stand. He's the man O.J. Simpson's attorneys claim is a racist and may have framed Simpson by planting a bloody glove on his property. Prosecutor Marcia Clark quickly headed off the defense, introducing into evidence a letter from Kathleen Bell, the woman who claims she heard Furman make racist remarks. Furman says he doesn't even know Bell.
Now, back in 1985 and 1986, sir, can you tell us whether you knew someone or met someone by the name of Kathleen Bell?
Yes, I can tell you. I did not.
Asked about a 1985 domestic call at the Simpson estate, Furman, a patrolman at the time, described seeing Simpson and a sobbing woman with light hair and her hands to her face. They stood in the driveway next to a Mercedes-Benz with a smashed windshield.
I asked the lady who broke the windshield. She responded, he did.
But after court ended, defense attorney F. Lee Bailey said that Clark misled the jury in implying that Furman could have pursued the 1985 incident.
Mark Furman had no options. He had no complainant. He had no complaint. He had no evidence that the breaking of the windshield in question wasn't an accident. And the suggestion that he went easy on O.J. Simpson is completely false and should be straightened out.
It will be F. Lee Bailey who cross-examines Detective Furman. It is expected to take several days, although it will probably take longer, considering that Detective Tom Lang was on the stand for 8 days. Manuel Gallegos, CBS News.